Welcome back to the Shigeaki podcast, the place where we blend timeless longevity wisdom with the latest in modern nutritional science. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman, and if you're over 60 and still trying to make sense of all the conflicting health advice out there, you're in the right place. With me, as always, is my brilliant co-host, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, a voice of wisdom and calm in a world full of noise. Today, we're tackling a frustrating issue that so many of my patients face. You're eating healthy carbs like brown rice, sweet potatoes, whole grain bread, you're even skipping dessert. But every time you check your blood sugar, it's still high. Or worse, you find yourself gaining belly fat, even though your meals look clean. Sound familiar? That's because it's not just what you eat, it's how you eat it that determines how your body responds. And when it comes to insulin, the hormone that controls your blood sugar energy and fat storage, your timing, food combinations, and daily habits matter even more than you think.
That's exactly right, Mark. After 60, our insulin sensitivity declines. That means even small portions of rice or potatoes can cause a bigger spike than they did in your 40s. But here's the good news. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. In fact, your brain and muscles still need them. The real issue is the context. What we'll show you today is how to change the context, the order you eat your food, what you pair your carbs with, even when you eat them during the day. With the right strategies, you can still enjoy your favorite comfort foods, like warm bread or a bowl of rice, without sending your insulin through the roof.
So, if you've been told you need to cut out all carbs forever, hold on. This episode may completely change your thinking. We're about to give you 6 simple insulin hacks that will allow you to eat smarter, stabilize your energy, and actually enjoy your meals again. Don't forget to hit like, click, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because every week we share real science with real solutions that help you stay strong, independent, and sharp for years to come.
Before we get into how to enjoy bread, rice, or potatoes without the dreaded blood sugar spike, we need to understand the key player behind all this insulin. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas. Its job is to help your cells absorb glucose, or sugar, from your bloodstream after you eat, especially when you eat carbohydrates. Now, here's where the problem begins. When you eat carbs, especially refined ones like white rice, white bread, or overcooked pasta, they break down into glucose very quickly. That glucose floods your bloodstream, and in response, your pancreas releases a surge of insulin to handle it. If the glucose load is too high, insulin levels spike fast and hard. Over time, if this keeps happening day after day, your cells become less responsive to insulin. This is called insulin resistance, and it's the first major step toward type 2 diabetes, belly fat, accumulation, chronic fatigue, and even brain fog.
That's why many older adults struggle even when eating healthy. After age 60 or 70, your body changes. You have less muscle mass to help absorb glucose. Your physical activity levels often decrease, and your cells naturally become less sensitive to insulin. That means even modest portions of carbs can raise your blood sugar more than they did when you were younger. But here's something important. You don't need to eliminate all carbs. Your body still needs some, especially for brain function and mood stability. The goal is not to fear carbohydrates, but to manage them wisely. It's not just about how much you eat. It's about how you eat it, when and what order, and with what combination of nutrients. These small adjustments can dramatically reduce insulin spikes even when you still eat foods like bread, rice, or potatoes.
Exactly. Think of insulin like a thermostat. You want it to stay stable, not jump up and down wildly. In the next part, we'll show you 6 easy strategies that act like insulation for your metabolism. They'll help keep insulin steady so you can enjoy your meals without the post-meal crash or long-term health risks. So stay with us, the real breakthroughs are coming next.
Rule 1. Eat in order: fat, fiber, carbs. When you look at a plate of food, most people think only about what they're eating. But after the age of 60, how you eat especially, the order can dramatically change how your body reacts, particularly your insulin levels. There's a powerful principle in nutritional science called food order, and it's surprisingly simple: eat in the sequence of fat, fiber, and carbs. In other words, you start your meal with foods rich in fiber and healthy fats, and only then move on to starches like bread rice or potatoes. Why does this matter? Because when fat and fiber hit your digestive system first, they act like a natural buffer. They slow down the emptying of your stomach and delay the digestion of carbohydrates. This results in a much slower release of glucose into the bloodstream, meaning your pancreas doesn't have to release a huge spike of insulin all at once. There's compelling data behind this. A 20-20 study by Tanaka and colleagues in Japan observed two groups eating the exact same meal, rice, vegetables, and olive oil. The group that ate vegetables and oil before the rice had 30 to 50% lower post-meal blood sugar compared to the group who ate rice first. That's a dramatic difference not from changing what they ate, but simply the order they ate it in.
This is one of my favorite hacks because it doesn't require you to give up the foods you love. You don't have to stop eating bread or rice. You just have to eat smarter. Here's how you can apply this today. Start your meal with a small salad, even something simple like steamed broccoli or spinach with olive oil. Add a handful of walnuts or a spoon of avocado for healthy fat. If you're having toast, pair it with almond butter or a poached egg on top. Don't begin your meal with plain white rice, white bread, or a sweet potato alone. That's like giving your bloodstream a sugar bomb right out of the gate. By eating fiber and fat, first you're putting your body in a position to manage carbs more efficiently. Over time, this simple shift can improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and even help with weight control, all without cutting out your favorite carbs. And remember, for seniors especially, preserving insulin sensitivity is a key to preventing fatigue, brain fog, and type 2 diabetes. And now you know one of the easiest ways to protect it. Just change the order you eat.
Principle 2. Choose resistant starch. You know, most people think they have to give up bread, rice, or potatoes completely if they want to control insulin. But what if I told you there's a smarter way? One of the biggest breakthroughs in nutritional science over the past 2 decades is something called resistant starch. It looks and tastes like regular carbohydrate, but it behaves completely differently in your body, especially when it comes to insulin. Resistant starch is a type of carbohydrate that escapes digestion in the small intestine. Instead of being broken down into glucose and causing your pancreas to release a flood of insulin, it passes through to your colon, where your gut bacteria ferment it. The byproduct of this fermentation is butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that reduces inflammation, protects your gut lining, and does not spike insulin levels. That's a win on every front.
And here's the beautiful part. It doesn't require exotic foods or complicated recipes. In fact, some of the best sources of resistant starch are simple everyday foods that you already know. But the key is how you prepare them. Take white rice, for example. When you cook it and eat it hot, it behaves like a typical carbohydrate, spiking glucose and insulin quickly. But if you cook it and then cool it in the refrigerator overnight, something amazing happens. The starch molecules rearrange in a process called retrogradation, transforming into resistant starch. You can enjoy that cooled rice the next day, maybe in a sushi roll or a rice salad, and your body treats it more like fiber than sugar. It's the same with potatoes. If you boil or bake them and then let them chill in the fridge overnight, the starches convert. Reheating them lightly doesn't undo the effect. So you can still enjoy mashed potatoes or roasted potatoes, just prepare them a little differently. One of my favorite breakfast tricks is overnight oats. No cooking required. Just soak rolled oats in almond milk or oat milk, maybe toss in some ground flaxseed and frozen berries and let it sit overnight. In the morning, you have a creamy, fiber-rich bowl of resistant starch that keeps blood sugar stable and energy steady.
This is especially powerful for people over 60. As we age, our muscle mass decreases, insulin sensitivity drops, and our metabolism slows. That means our bodies handle sugar less efficiently than before. Resistant starch offers a way to still enjoy familiar foods without triggering those dangerous insulin spikes. So the next time you cook rice or potatoes, just cool them first. It's a tiny change, but it makes a huge difference in how your body reacts.
Principle 3. Eat carbs after movement. There's a simple yet powerful rule that most people overlook when it comes to eating carbs timing, and the best time to eat them after movement. You see, your muscles aren't just for strength or balance, they're also like sponges for sugar. After any kind of physical activity, whether it's a walk around the block or sweeping your floor, your muscle cells become more sensitive. They open their doors to glucose, pulling it in from the bloodstream with very little need for insulin. The science behind this comes down to a protein transporter called GLUT4. Normally, glucose can't just waltz into your muscle cells. It needs insulin to unlock the door. But after you move your body, your cells activate GLUT4 transporters that don't require insulin to bring glucose in. It's like creating an express lane for sugar to be cleared out of your bloodstream, so your insulin levels stay low even if you've just eaten rice or potatoes.
This one strategy alone is a game changer, especially for people over 60. You don't need to run marathons. Just 15 minutes of light movement before a meal can make a world of difference. Let's say it's almost lunchtime. Instead of going straight to the table, take a short walk around your yard or up and down the hallway. Do a little vacuuming. Fold some laundry. These small everyday movements activate your muscles enough to boost glucose uptake. Now, here's the second half of the equation, what you do after eating. This is where most people go wrong. You eat a bowl of rice or a sandwich, and then you sit down on the couch or get back to work at your desk. Big mistake. Because that's when your blood sugar starts to rise and with it your insulin. But if you simply stand up and wash the dishes, take a slow stroll, or even just pace around the kitchen for 10 minutes, you'll help your muscles soak up that sugar right away.
In Japan, we have a saying that eat and walk 100 steps. It's old wisdom, but now we know it has a scientific basis. Post-meal movement doesn't just help digestion, it actually lowers the insulin response to your meal. And it's especially helpful for older adults whose insulin sensitivity may already be reduced. You don't need to go to the gym or do intense workouts. What matters is consistency and timing. Think of it like this: carbs are fuel and movement turns on the engine. Without movement, that fuel just sits in your bloodstream, triggering insulin and storing as fat. But when you move, you're burning it, using it, processing it efficiently.
So, whether it's a morning stretch, a walk after breakfast, or tidying up after dinner, those little bursts of activity are like insulin hacks. It may seem small, but it's one of the most powerful habits you can build for insulin health.
Principle 4. Use vinegar or natural sour foods. One of the most surprising yet powerful tools for managing blood sugar spikes doesn't come in a pill. It comes in your kitchen and it's sour. Vinegar, lemon juice, fermented vegetables like kimchi or sauerkraut. These natural acidic foods do something remarkable. They slow down the digestion of starches. When you add a bit of acid to your meal, it actually delays the breakdown of carbohydrates, which means glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually, and that gives your body time to handle it without overwhelming insulin. And this is not just folk wisdom, there's science to back it up. One landmark study in 2004 by Johnston and colleagues showed that consuming just 15 milliliters of diluted apple cider vinegar, about 1 tablespoon, 20 minutes before a starchy meal, led to a 34% reduction in post-meal blood sugar levels. That's a huge drop for such a small change. And the beauty of it is that it works regardless of age. Even in older adults with reduced insulin sensitivity, this simple trick can bring real results.
Think about that. Just 1 tablespoon of vinegar before a meal with rice, potatoes, or bread. No medications, no special equipment, just something you already have in your pantry. And there are so many ways to use it. You can add a splash of apple cider, vinegar, or lemon juice to a salad. You can drizzle it over cooked greens or roasted vegetables. Or, one of my favorite methods, mix a tablespoon of vinegar with a half cup of water, maybe a pinch of cinnamon or ginger, and sip it about 15 to 20 minutes before your meal. It's refreshing, it primes your digestion, and it helps blunt that insulin spike before it even begins.
In Japan, we often pair pickled vegetables with rice for this very reason. not just for flavor, but because the acidity helps us process the starch more gently. The sour taste stimulates the stomach to release digestive acids, while the vinegar itself slows the conversion of starch into sugar. So it's a win-win. And if you're someone who enjoys fermented foods, like kimchi sauerkraut or miso soup, those can help too. They're naturally acidic and they come with the added benefit of probiotics.
It's important to start slow, though. If you're new to vinegar drinks, try it diluted well, like 1 tablespoon in a glass of water. Never drink vinegar straight, it's too harsh on the throat and enamel. But when used properly, it's one of the most low-tech, high-impact tools we have for managing insulin. And remember that this isn't about taking vinegar instead of eating well. It's about layering habits that support each other. When you eat in the right order, move your body, and add a little acid to your meals, your metabolism begins to respond in a very different way. Your energy stabilizes, your cravings calm down, and over time, your insulin sensitivity improves.
Principles 5 and 6, time limit and protein combination. There's one thing we often overlook when it comes to eating carbs, and that's timing. Even if you're eating the healthiest kind of rice bread or potatoes, the time you eat them plays a major role in how your body handles them. After 8 p.m., our insulin sensitivity drops naturally. The body winds down, preparing for rest, not for digestion or sugar processing. So eating starchy foods late at night, like a bowl of pasta or white rice, can easily spike your blood sugar and store more of that energy as fat. Simply put, starch at night tends to stick around as belly fat. But there's another layer here. It's not just when you eat carbs, it's also what you eat them with. When you combine carbs with a good source of protein like eggs, chicken, or beans, it slows down digestion. That gives your body more time to respond with a measured insulin release rather than a panic spike. Protein acts like a buffer. It helps modulate glucose absorption and gives you longer-lasting energy without the crash.
And that's where smart meal planning comes in. You don't need to cut out bread, rice, or potatoes. You just need to build the plate correctly and eat them at the right time of day. Take breakfast, for example. Instead of just toast or oatmeal on its own, try adding 1 boiled egg or a spoonful of almond butter. That simple addition of protein changes the entire metabolic response. For lunch, something like grilled chicken breast, a small serving of leftover cooled rice, and a leafy green salad can give you all the nutrients you need without triggering a huge insulin spike. It's balanced, satisfying, and keeps your blood sugar stable for hours. What you want to avoid is grabbing a piece of bread or a bowl of noodles when you're starving and haven't had any protein all day. That's when the insulin surge hits hardest. And that's exactly what leads to energy crashes, cravings, and eventually weight gain or even diabetes.
It's also important to remember that seniors, people over 60 or 70, have a naturally lower muscle mass and reduced insulin sensitivity. So every bit of timing and combination matters more. A late-night sandwich might have been okay in your 30s, but at 70, it's a shortcut to poor sleep, belly fat, and insulin resistance. So here's the rule of thumb. Eat your starchy carbs earlier in the day, ideally before sunset. Always pair them with protein. And whenever possible, add some fiber and healthy fat into the mix, just like we talked about in earlier parts of this episode.
To wrap up, we've been told for years that carbs are the enemy, that bread, rice, and potatoes are off limits if you want to stay healthy, especially as you get older. But the truth is, carbs themselves aren't the problem. The real issue lies in how we eat them. When we understand the body's insulin response, we can enjoy these comfort foods without damaging our metabolism. Insulin is like a traffic cop for your blood sugar. When it's constantly spiking, it creates traffic jams, leading to weight gain, fatigue, poor sleep, and even memory problems. And for people over 60, these effects are even more pronounced. Your body isn't as efficient at using insulin as it once was. That's why the way you eat carbs now matters more than ever. It's not about restriction, it's about precision.
That's exactly right. What we want to encourage today isn't fear, but wisdom. Let's say you love rice or toast in the morning. Good. Keep them, but make one small change. Start your meal with a handful of greens or a few almonds. After eating, go for a short walk around the house. Choose resistant starches like cooled potatoes or overnight oats. These small shifts can make a big difference in how your body responds to carbs. Because health isn't built on extremes, it's built on consistency. And when you make choices that align with how your body truly works, you start to feel the benefits like clearer thinking, more energy, better sleep, and more stable weight. That's not a diet, that's long-term health.
So, here's the challenge for everyone listening. At your very next meal, try just one of the strategies we shared today. Eat your veggies first. Pair your carbs with protein. Move a little after eating. Then notice how you feel, not just immediately, but hours later. And remember that health doesn't require perfection. It just requires understanding. Choose wisely, eat mindfully, and give your body what it truly needs. Have you tried any of these insulin-friendly eating habits before? Share your experiences in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us in the next episode. Thank you.